It was supposed to be a routine hearing. Nothing special. Just another Monday morning inside Fulton County Superior Court, Georgia. But by the end of that day, the entire courtroom, judge, jurors, officers, and reporters, would be left speechless because a 22-year-old black man accused of armed robbery would do the impossible. He would win a case that even experienced lawyers had walked away from. Alone, the clock struck 9 a.m. Rain tapped against the courthouse windows as people shuffled into their seats. Cameras clicked, reporters whispered, and a young man in an orange jumpsuit, Marcus Hill, sat quietly at the defense table. He had been in custody for nearly 8 months, awaiting trial for a robbery he swore he didn't commit. The evidence against him? A grainy surveillance video, an unreliable witness, and a wallet found near the scene. But there was one more thing, something no one could ignore. The color of his skin. From the moment he was arrested, Marcus felt the weight of the system pressed down on him. He wasn't treated like a person. He was treated like a statistic. And today, he was about to face the fight of his life. His attorney, Daniel Foster, a middle-aged man with slick back hair and a $3,000 suit, leaned over and whispered, "Marcus, I've done everything I can. But I'll be honest, the jury won't buy your story." Marcus looked at him, calm but hurt. "So that's it? You're giving up?" Foster sighed. "Look, I've got 3 other cases this week. If you want miracles, find yourself another lawyer." He stood up, pushed his chair back, and before anyone could react, he walked out. The courtroom froze. The judge's jaw dropped. The prosecutor blinked in confusion. The bailiff muttered, "Did that man just quit?" Marcus sat there, staring at the empty chair beside him. His lawyer, the man paid to protect him, had just abandoned him in open court. "Mr. Hill," the judge said, regaining composure, "do you wish to request a public defender?" Marcus paused. Then slowly he stood. "No, Your Honor, I'll represent myself." A murmur rippled through the room. The prosecutor chuckled under his breath. "This should be quick," he whispered. The judge leaned forward. "Son, this is not a game. You're facing 25 years in prison. Are you sure you understand what you're doing?" Marcus nodded. "I understand, Your Honor, and I understand no one else is going to fight for me like I will." The prosecutor, Richard Coleman, strutted around the courtroom like a man who had already won. He laid out his evidence, the blurry footage, the witness, the wallet. He pointed to Marcus and said, "This man was caught near the crime scene minutes after the robbery. We have his fingerprints. We have his motive." Marcus stayed silent, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When it was his turn to cross-examine, everyone expected him to stumble, but he didn't. He walked to the center of the courtroom and looked the witness dead in the eye. "Mr. Turner," Marcus began, "you said you saw me running from the store that night, correct?" The man nodded nervously. "Yes, that's right." Marcus picked up a photograph. "This is you at the gas station across town. Timestamp 9:33 p.m. 5 minutes after you claim you saw me at the robbery scene. How did you get there so fast?" The witness froze. He stammered, I might have mixed up the times." The jury exchanged glances. The judge raised an eyebrow. Marcus continued, "Or maybe someone told you what to say?" The prosecutor jumped up. "Objection." The judge allowed it, but the damage was done. The first crack had appeared in the state's case. On the second day, Marcus focused on the evidence. He had spent nights studying law books in his cell, memorizing procedure and evidence rules. He wasn't a lawyer, but he was relentless. "Detective Roberts," Marcus said on the stand, "you testified that my fingerprints were on the wallet found near the scene. Did you compare those prints to the victim's family members or the store clerk?" The detective frowned. "No, that wasn't necessary." Marcus smiled faintly. "Then how can you be sure those prints weren't from someone else?" The detective hesitated. The jury noticed. The judge took a deep breath. As the trial stretched into its third day, the courtroom atmosphere changed. The same people who doubted Marcus now watched him with growing respect. Even the bailiff whispered, "That kid's sharper than half the lawyers that come through here." But Marcus wasn't fighting for applause. He was fighting for freedom. And on the fourth day, everything came to a head. The prosecution's star witness, a man named Eric Donovan, was brought in. He claimed Marcus had confessed to him in jail. Marcus rose slowly. "Mr. Donovan, you've been convicted 3 times for perjury, haven't you?" Donovan squirmed. "That's not relevant." "Oh, it's very relevant," Marcus said, stepping closer. "Because if you lie for money or for time off your sentence, the jury deserves to know." He reached into his folder and pulled out a document. "This is your signed deal with the district attorney's office, correct? Reduced time for your testimony." Donovan's eyes darted toward the prosecutor's table. The courtroom erupted in whispers. The judge slammed the gavel. "Order." Marcus looked back at the jury. No further questions. That night, the trial coverage hit local news. Defendant defends himself and wins the jury over. Clips of Marcus's cross-examinations went viral. People across the city began to rally around him. The hashtag let Marcus speak trended online. By the final day, the courtroom was packed, every seat filled. Even the judge seemed tense, aware that whatever happened would be remembered for years. The prosecutor gave his closing statement, trying to restore control, but his words fell flat. Then Marcus stood. No suit, no briefcase, just a steady voice and the truth. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," he began softly, "I'm not trained for this. I'm not a lawyer, but I've lived my whole life fighting to be heard, in classrooms, in interviews, even in this courtroom, and all I've ever wanted was for someone to listen." He paused. "I didn't rob that store, but from the moment I was arrested, I was treated like I did, because I looked like someone who could have." He looked at each juror. "You have the power to fix that, not just for me, but for every person who's ever been judged before being known." He sat down. The courtroom was silent. After 3 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. The foreman stood, voice trembling. "We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty." The room exploded. Reporters rushed to capture the moment. The judge smiled faintly, turning to Marcus. "Mr. Hill, in all my years on this bench, I've never seen such composure, clarity, and courage from a man representing himself. You remind us that justice doesn't belong only to the educated. It belongs to the determined." Tears filled Marcus's eyes. He looked toward the ceiling, whispering, "Thank you, Mama." As he walked out of the courthouse, the crowd erupted in applause. People shouted his name. But Marcus just smiled quietly and said to a reporter, "I didn't beat the system. I just refused to let it break me." Months later, Marcus used his story to inspire others. He started studying law, not for fame, not for money, but to make sure no one else ever stood alone in a courtroom like he did. And every time he walked past that courthouse, he remembered that rainy Monday morning, the one where he lost his lawyer, but found his voice. Because sometimes the greatest offense is the truth spoken without fear.